Hello and welcome to today's live, whatever it's called, live broadcast. First of all, I'm going to have to apologize for the quality because I am on a mobile and I can see myself that the quality of the image is not very good, but there's nothing I can do about it. But I can see myself as I move my hand around the screen. I can see how weak the image is. So up front, there's apologies for that. Now, hello, Anton, hello. And I was going to do it from outside. I was going to do it on my mobile phone from outside. I suppose I could have gone outside now in any case, in all honesty. Hello, Dennis. Oh, those ads, good. And the thing was, I couldn't work out how, when you announce there's going to be in a live, then if you don't close the thing down on your telephone, then it's okay. It stays up. Hello, Amir and Dennis. And but then it just didn't it didn't work. I tried to do it on the telephone, couldn't get to do. I've only got it on my computer. I suppose I could have gone outside and done the computer, but sort of sitting in the park with a computer wasn't exactly my. I didn't think it would work very well. Not only that, I mean, when I've noticed that when you do things outside, you do tend to get the sort of the drunks and what have you, sort of wanting to join in and sort of try and get stuff off you and see what you're doing. So that was it. So Emmy is eating Doritos with coffee and watching YouTube. Well, I wouldn't be drinking coffee this late myself, unless you're on the night shift, of course. So hello, Phil. So anyway, today, what I thought I'd do is I sort of talk about 3.5 months of this one Ukraine. But of course, if there's anything else which is actually relevant, then do say it. Now, my specialization obviously is in, no, not obviously, but is in the Second World War, and so I do tend to do comparisons between what happened in 1930s with what's happening today in Ukraine. Of course, this is made much easier for me by the administration in the Kremlin, which seems to go along with a lot of the Hitler's way of thinking. Anyway, of course, to compare it to a lot of, there's those that say that Putin isn't Hitler. And quite honest, I think the comparisons are really very strong. I mean, I do accept there's one or two things which aren't the same, but given the mentality and given the way that Putin wants to treat, or the current administration wants to treat the Ukrainian population, then I think that this is a fair comparison. Now, the thing is often said, well, Putin isn't Hitler because Hitler turned on the Jews and Putin hasn't turned on the Jews, or didn't turn on the Jews. Indeed, Putin, unlike most KGB officers, was quite friendly disposed towards Jewish people. The KGB, as an organization, would not take people of certain ethnicities, such as Crimean Tatars or Jews, for example, whereas Putin himself, who actually lived with a Jewish family in St. Petersburg as a child, he certainly is quite well disposed. Whereas nobody in his administration, as far as I'm aware, appears to be Jewish. He certainly does hang out with a lot of Jewish oligarchs, and to a certain extent has protected them in the past. So on the other hand, if these Jewish people also turned out to be Ukrainian, then he wouldn't have such a high opinion of them. Indeed, as I pointed out in videos in the past, because of the article that was published in RIA Novosti in March by a person called Sergetsky. What song was his name? What was his name now? Sergetseyev, and he openly is clearly advocating a genocide of Ukrainians. This leaves Ukrainian people with no alternative but to fight until the death, knowing otherwise they will be killed. Having been in liberated areas myself, I can see, by judging by the behavior of the Russian troops there. It's quite clear that this is just total barbarism. Anyway, Christopher writes, am I aware of any of the current battles having been fought on or near actual World War II battles? Yes, indeed. There is a place called Izium. Izium is to the south of Kharkiv. And in 1942, there was a major battle there. This was in May of 42. And so having said that, the battle that was fought there was a Soviet attack meant to retake Kharkiv, and then the Germans, in fact, was von Paulus, Sixth Army, who later got defeated at Stalingrad, and they were responsible for this enveloping action. This turned the tide on the Eastern Front. So it's in 1941. There was the situation that it was the Germans who were advancing. Then the winter battles of December to March 42 showed advances by the Soviets as they recaptured land. But by the Battle of Izium, which opened the 1942 campaign, admittedly that it opened it on the wrong side, this was a major Soviet defeat, and this was somewhat akin to the defeat just slightly further to the west earlier, the previous September, when there was Battle of Kiev, which was probably the largest victory or defeat, depending which way you look at it, in history, with 650,000 Soviet prisoners being taken. So I'll use that as an example. So so Emir writes there were 3 battles of Hakov. So there was there was a number. Strange enough, in the following year, so the Battle of Stalingrad ended on the 2nd of February 1943, and then there was Manstein had his counterattack, which led to the 3rd Battle of Kharkov, and which was a major German victory coming in the wake of Stalingrad. This more or less neutralized the front. So that was that could have neutralized the front, in fact, had the Battle of Kursk not taken place and been a major German defeat. Of course, by 1943, there wasn't much chance of a stalemate on the Eastern Front anyway, because the Western Allies were bombing Germany to bits. And of course, there was the major victory in North Africa, which led to, first of all, Italy being knocked out of the war. Early to 250,000 prisoners being taken in Tunisia. So I think the boot was, by this time, it doesn't matter, even though the Eastern Front had been stabilized, and the Western Allies, above all the United States, would have won the war. So so Emir writes, it's strange to me people calling Kharkov Kharkiv, that I learned it's Ukraine name and then Kharkov is a Russian name. Well, yes, I mean, it depends. We sometimes use one word and sometimes others. I mean, I've never called Moscow Moskva, unless of course I were speaking Russian, in which case I wouldn't call it Moscow. So it depends on the language we're actually using. I still tend to call Kiev Kiev, not Kiev. I noticed that Odessa is also now changed its name. I was in the Ukraine media center, or a media center in Ukraine, and it said, hey, here's the way you've got to spell things. And so one of the things was Kiev written Kyiv, and Odessa with just one S. So this actually, if they called it, that when the film The Odessa File was came out, because they used the SS runes in Odessa, that wouldn't have worked anyway. So so I'm tending now to use Ukrainian words. Now, one thing I've noticed really strongly is this move to use the Ukrainian language. And I think what this war will do, this will reinforce it. There was one gentleman I met, he was living in the block where I was staying in Kiev. So there was 2 places I was staying. One was bang in the center, and the second one was sort of in a housing area on the western side of the city. and there was sorry, his name was Piotr or Pet, sorry, Peter, and he at the in his 80s is trying to learn Ukrainian because he said he wasn't going to speak Russian any longer. I've got to say in my own case though, because obviously I don't speak Ukrainian, and so I was speaking to people, and I speak to people directly in Russian, and the overwhelming amount of victims of this war are in fact Russian speakers, not Ukrainian speakers. So I personally felt something that when I was in the Western Ukraine, I would say to people, I speak to them directly first in Ukrainian, so I don't speak Ukrainian in Ukrainian, and then I would just continue in Russian. But anyway, that apart. So, did I find any Russian helmets? My friend bought a Russian uniform that was worn near Kiev from the Ukrainian army for €150. Full uniform with cap. He might resell it to me. No, I didn't find. I found bits of kit lying around, but it wasn't in any condition to actually pick up and bring back with me. The one of the things that people have asked me sort of get them bits of tanks and things like that. Yeah, well, there are bits of tanks lying around all over the place, but I've got to carry this stuff, and having bit chunks of metal in my backpack it's bad enough having to carry all the junk I've got to carry without actually adding to it. So yeah, there won't be any sort of scrap metal souvenirs coming from me. And I've noticed actually from my experience in the past is that I've taken things which I've found, which otherwise I would never take something which I thought was I don't know, part of a building or something like that. But when, for example, I took some barbed wire that had been used in a camp to house Soviet prisoners of war in Home in eastern Poland, and I only took it because it had been discarded and put to one side, and I knew it was from the Second World War. So I had this barbed wire in my garage for a couple of years. I didn't know what to do with it. So what did I do? I just ended up throwing it out. I'm not a collector. I might collect piles of information, but I don't collect bits of kit and things like that. And unlike many people who are sort of interested in the same things as me, I've got no interest in collecting anything at all. So I mean, if somebody gave me a helmet or something, I just give it away. I really just don't want it. Or what else could I have? I mean, bits of clothing or things of this nature. And I did have spent ammunition casings, but I mean, I gave everything away to other people. I'm just not at all. So Emir says he had found an Italian helmet on a hill beside a destroyed barn from World War II. On that place, there was a German and Italian local headquarters. Now, Emir comes from former Yugoslavia, and there was significant fighting in there. Some parts of Yugoslavia occupied by the Italians, other parts by the Germans. And after the Italians sort of changed sides in 1943, this obviously led to stuff being led to problems there with people also got an increased fighting. Of course, within Yugoslavia itself, there were different groups who ended up fighting each other. So Yugoslavia took really dreadful casualties. I also in the First World War, so 2 world wars, which really took its toll on the population of that country as it was, and now it's broken up anyway. So Yugoslavia is just a memory. Right. So anyway, so as far as the war in Ukraine is going, I stick by what I've been now saying for a couple of months, is that and I notice other people are now saying this. I personally believe that this will end in a stalemate. No, sorry, this will come to a stalemate situation, a sort of a World War One situation. I believe that the preponderance now is on the defense, and because of that, I don't believe, and I've said this now for a very long time, and for the first time ever I heard somebody else say it only yesterday, that the Ukrainian army is not in any form or it cannot attack successfully. in small groups, but anything above a battalion, it's not going to attack until there's some changes are made with the way it's done. The problem is first of all, it's with the administration within the army and within the Ukrainian army itself, like the Russian army. There's low initiative is not encouraged. And if we look at, for example, in the Second World War, one of the successes of the German army was this Auftragstaktik, the fact that there's a general plan, but then people further down the line can interpret the plans as they so desire. So the general might be able to interpret it, and he passes on to a colonel who might be able to interpret it, and passes on to a lieutenant who might pass it on to a sergeant, and passes on to a corporal, all the way down the line, and then they can react according to circumstances. So if somebody says you got to go straight ahead, and then somebody finds a way around, so well, this would be better if we go around, and the general at the top can't notice this, and it doesn't have the time to pass on this information. That's Auftragstactic would be to actually do what the people on the ground think is correct. Whereas certainly within the Ukrainian army, and it seems in the Russian army as well, this isn't the way it works. There's such an administration, and this is a major problem. And I think that this will mean that the Ukrainian army is not capable of advancing, particularly its own combined arms is, I don't think it's strong. I mean, clearly the Russians are far worse at combined arms, but I don't think the Ukrainians will end up being much better. Anyway, I hope I'm completely wrong. You know, nothing would give me more pleasure than to be up here next week and saying I was completely wrong about that. And I'm glad to the Crimea and Donbass. I don't think I will be saying that. Connection's unstable. Sorry. If it goes off, I'll just finish, if that's all right. Can somebody just write a message now saying you can hear me? Can you just say I am here? Anything. Just write something, because I'm not even certain I'm connected at the moment. Never mind. I'll just keep talking, and hope for the best. Here, yeah, well done. Thanks, Emmy. It's just you and me then. And so that's how I do see it. Now, somebody asked me, hello, Dennis. How do I believe that there's the risk of another attack from the north? Well, to be quite honest, I do believe that could happen. The initiative is still in the hands of the invader. Now, a lot's been said of the fact that the invader is now using old kit, such as T-62s. T-62s came out in the 1960s. Indeed, on my Facebook site, I did a little joke. It was an in-joke, and I put there was a model of a T-34, and I took a photograph from below and said that the word has it that the terrorists are now running out of new equipment. Now, the thing was, obviously, if somebody had to recognize it to get the highly amusing joke, and so therefore, I even if they do run out, I don't think that of kit they still will have the advantage because of the numbers. Christopher writes that most of the Ukrainians are woefully untrained, and many units have been accused of cowardice. I haven't heard of anybody being accused of cowardice at all. As from being untrained, yes, I agree with that. But I think the thing is this, though. Thing is, in Ukraine, the morale is incredibly high. I mean, it's really hard to put this over how high the morale is. And obviously, I've never witnessed anything like this before. I mean, I wasn't around for any major wars in the past, but it really is hard to appreciate, I think, how it is. As for people being accused of cowardice, well, okay, I've heard nothing like that, and it's very easy to accuse somebody of cowardice when you're sort of sitting in a nice, pleasant environment, as I am now, and suggest that somebody else should be dying. And certainly for those under this massive artillery bombardment, that's taking place now in the Donbass. It's very being. I've now been in 2 bombardments, and because they were cruise missiles, and you just bang bang, and that's it. But if you're under constant artillery, the artillery just sort of, it's not very exact. That must be utterly terrifying for people. And so anyway, that's how I see it. Anyway, so Emir writes, Ukraine units refuse to. Sorry, Ukraine units refuse to do orders where death sentence, making videos calling Kiev to stop sending them to death. I'm not quite understand that. Sorry, calling Ukraine people to help them not getting sent to death without heavy equipment. Okay, hello, Janice. Yeah, okay. The problem here, I think, if I've understood this, Emir, correctly, is the following: is that it's very Russian forces outnumber Ukrainian forces in the Donbass, maybe as much as 20-1 in artillery, and they've got never-ending stocks of ammunition. Now, it's been said that they've used up between 40 and 60% of their their guided missiles, but their non-guided equipment, they've got stuff probably going back to the Second World War, so they can keep firing it and firing and firing it, and that's going to keep the battle going. And Ukraine, unfortunately, it just does not have the kit. What is needed, in my opinion, is more of these killer drones and this type of on the long range rockets. Find out where the terrorists are firing from, the Russian army's firing from, and then to get rid of these rocket launchers and the artillery and whatever it is that's firing this stuff. A lot of the, as far as the rocket launchers, they seem to have so many. Now, things with rocket launchers and these tracked artillery is there's a limit to the amount of ammunition we can actually carry. So if they can knock out first of all, the stuff that's bringing up the ammunition, and then secondly, either the guns, the towed artillery, or the self-propelled artillery, or the rocket launchers, knock them things out, and that would make it much easier. If they do manage to get this kit from United States, Germany, and United Kingdom, which has got a longer range than the Russian stuff, then that would certainly be a game changer in some areas. But bear in mind, the United States, for example, has offered less than 100 pieces of equipment. Well, you've got a front which is 1,600 kilometers long. That's 1 per 16 kilometers. No, honestly, that is not going to go very far. Of course, if it's all concentrated in one place, then it might plaster them. But it's finding the place where the when plastering is going to be successful. Now, Christopher writes that he served air during Desert Storm, and seeing the effects of modern advanced weapons, it's obvious that this war is even more brutal. There are many videos backing up my last comment. Yeah, I would. Oh, sorry. Making the last comment being that the Ukrainian units have been accused of cowardice. Okay, well, maybe there are. I haven't seen them. Nor have I heard. Actually, there's one thing I've got to say actually on this comment though. I get people, I was in Ukraine, and people would be sending me sort of like a lot of this conspiracy stuff. Here, have you somebody in the United States who's as close as he's ever been to Ukraine was a day trip to Cincinnati. I can't speak the language, but he's putting up this conspiracy stuff, and I was on, I was there in the places which had been destroyed. Now there's people sending me this sort of nonsense to me. I'm not suggesting, of course, that what you're referring to about the cowardice being nonsense, because I'm just saying I haven't heard it. So it's not the same thing, but just sort of reminded me there. Yeah. So Emmy said, 100 bits of kit won't change much. Yeah, it won't change much, and that is a point. 500 tanks and 500 artillery, but not 100. Yes, the thing is, of course, with modern warfare is that it's concentration. This is what Blitzkrieg is all about. It's concentrating in one particular area. and 500 tanks might make a difference. 500 artillery pieces might do. And so, certainly, this stuff that's coming to Ukraine, seems to me to be in such small amounts. But then again, it just has to be sort of more or less concentrated. And if it just happens to hit the place where the Russians are attacking, such as Severodonetsk, for example, then it might make a difference. I have the opinion that the thing is, I started off by saying about 3.5 months and what Putin wants to do, which seems to be I believe it's some kind of genocide on the Ukrainian people. It doesn't have to be a genocide like Hitler wanted, maybe, because I think Putin would be happy if they all left Ukraine. That would be sufficient. He wants the land, and I, from what I have seen, it's just a case of just destroying everything. And so I think that what they might do is the following, and this is just my idea at present. So if they might just want the borders of the oblasts of Donetsk and Lugansk, and if they got that, and then they can sort of give them to these countries, these pseudo countries, these People's Republic of Lugansk and People's Republic of Donetsk, which is obviously ruled by Russian puppets anyway, or people are Russian, and the rulers are in general from Russia. And then that might be what Putin will decide. That's it. We're going on the defensive. We're not going to attack anymore, and that'll be the end of it, as far as Putin's concerned. Realizing that you try and get a peace treaty, you're trying to build up his forces, and you'll have another goal in 10 years' time or something like that. This is how I think is what probably they're thinking now, and knowing full well that the West will just get bored with it, and then they won't give any support. Of course, and it's this returning to the same thing that happened in the 1930s. If somebody had tried to stop Hitler in the 1930s, then the Second World War mightn't have happened. If the Austrians had fought in 1938, then maybe it wouldn't have. If the Czechs had fought, and it's all of this. If Austria, Czechoslovakia, and Poland had joined together in 1930, and Lithuania, then the attacks that were made by the Nazis in the 18-month period following the March 1938 attack on Austria, if those four countries had banded together, their forces heavily outnumbered those of Hitler, and highly probable that none of those countries would have been occupied, none of those countries would have been destroyed. And the thing was, they had their own petty jealousies. They didn't band together. They did nothing. They did nothing to fight. And so this is how I see the Ukraine situation. I think that whereas at the moment we've got unity in the West to support Putin, we've got to bear in mind that there's plenty of conspiracy theorists and all this lot who are doing Putin's job for him in Western and Central Europe, and therefore, as far as I see it, I think you might try to get them to do his work for him. Anyway, sorry. Emir writes there's 200,000 on the whole front, both sides, and whoever concentrate better equipment and combined arms together with geography positions in one place will drive forward will win. Yeah. So there's this place was it Popasna? I've forgotten the name right now. Something like Popasna. I know Emir writes Popasna. That is the breakthrough. I don't really think this is actually a breakthrough, to be quite honest. That's my. I see it as something as a military term, bite and hold. And so it's like you sort of advance a little bit, just a little bit, and then you stop advancing, and then you advance somewhere else. You'll jump forward a little bit, and then you stop advancing. So there's bite. But the thing is, you can only do this in a few hundred meters at a go. That's it. And so anyway, Ukraine Donbass army is in operational encirclement at Severodonetsk, and they have only one road of supply that is under artillery fire. Yes. Oh dear, what's that? There's a noise outside. Emir predicts that the Russian troops Chechens and Wagner Group next month or so will complete the taking of Lugansk region, possibly injure, kill 6,000 or 13,000 Ukrainian soldiers. Right, Christopher writes, this war involves the need for grunts and nerds. The weapons supposedly being sent from the West need highly capable soldiers, plus those in the trenches. Good point. Yeah, it does need nerds. Nerds being, I think, being those sort of people with glasses looking at it, sitting a long way away, sort of firing highly technical electronic weapons at the enemy. And yeah, Janice writes, appeasement emboldens our enemies. 1938 proved that. If there's one thing, yes, certainly, appeasement causes wars. There can be no doubt about it. Appeasement, I can't say it's never worked, because the thing is like this, there may have been cases in history, so well, here you are, you can have that, but go away. I can't think of any. I cannot think off the top of my head any time when appeasement has worked. If you know of time, then write it down, because I can't think of anything off the top of my head. But yeah, appeasement doesn't work. And what it does, appeasement ends up killing people. 50 million people died as a result of Hitler's war. And that's 50 million people who, I wouldn't say who could be alive today, but I'm sure you know, 50 million people who could have done so much for the world. Not only that, I mean, it's all of the treasure that's lost as well, all of the rebuilding that has to be done. And there's plenty of damage to be seen from the Second World War all over Central Europe, even in Germany. Places like Dresden, you can still see the damage really clearly. So this is what it puts people back in time, and what all the damaged stuff, it has to be replaced and done again. And this is human labor, which could be put to better use, in my opinion. Jane Fredericks, conspiracy, fact, not theory. There's a conspiracy in the West and Ukraine to frame Russia, and every piece of evidence supports this fact. Yeah, I'm afraid this is the neo-Nazi point of view here, that there's a conspiracy in the West and Ukraine to frame Russia. So this is the neo-Nazi idea that the Ukraine invaded Russia, and Russia is just defending itself, and that I think that Putin's some kind of benevolent elected social democrat, and that all those people that Putin has murdered either committed suicide themselves or were I don't know, killed by the West or something like that. Yeah. And okay, next claim. I've seen destroyed buildings. You haven't seen Russian forces destroy them, have you? So who did the damage and why did they? I mean, this is just totally pointless. Now, I personally have not seen. A thing is like this. I've heard the missiles come in. So the argument here being is that the missiles were fired by the Ukrainians at Ukrainian territory. On the other hand, I have spoken to lots of people who did see it, and the sick thing, I think, with these conspiracists is that they do not go and talk to the people who are the victims of these bombs. And this, I have, when a lady who's lost her entire family, buried underground by these neo-Nazis, and these Nazis then come up like Miss Fredericks here, claiming that it was the Ukrainians who actually did it. It's sick beyond belief, and I appreciate that what the neo-Nazi ideology is to try. It's the same as the way that they will no doubt claim that the Jews in the gas chambers gassed themselves, or the Holocaust didn't happen. It's the same thing as we have there. If any of these Nazis want to go, why don't they go to Ukraine and tell the victims of their that they weren't the planes that attacked them were Ukrainians. That the people who were in Russian uniforms and Russian equipment were in fact Ukrainians pretending to be. I mean, this is totally sick that these neo-Nazis today can actually claim this. And I have spoken to them. I have been there. I have seen the ruins. And I don't know, just don't have words for this incredible stupidity. Anyway, Emir writes, both bombed civilian areas in the war. Ukraine bombed and Russia bombed. No, Emir, there is no evidence whatsoever of Ukrainian play. I have seen no evidence of it. I don't doubt that in the case when the terrorists were hiding amongst people, civilian areas, and they were firing out of them, then that might take incoming fire. I do appreciate that sort of thing happens. I mean, it's what is happening, for example, in Gaza, where you get the Hamas start firing from civilian areas into Israel. I mean, this has been reported now for some time, and I can see that, for example, in Lugansk and Donetsk, that the terrorists might have done this. But what the thing is, you've got to say is, why were the terrorists there in the first place? This is the thing. And so it's in the same way as I do believe that Israel does what it can not to hit civilians in Gaza. I do appreciate that civilians do get killed in Gaza. I'm not saying they don't. I think Ukraine finds itself in a very similar situation. But you don't see entire towns obliterated by the neo-Nazis, the Kremlin, as you do in Ukraine. Indeed, as they did in Syria, as they did in Chechnya. It's just a case of obliterating everything. And so you compare this to others. Ukraine's now bombing Donetsk. Don't think so. I don't believe that, actually. I'm not saying it isn't that, but I'm saying I don't believe it. I don't believe that Ukraine has the resources to do mass bombing or bombing. If I appreciate that this is maybe the sort of thing that is on Russia Today or these other neo-Nazi Kremlin programs, but I very much doubt that that Ukraine is bombing civilian areas. Sorry. Vigard, right? If Putin thinks he will lose the armed conflict, will there be Chinese troops in Ukraine? No, no, I don't think it'll come to that. Mind you, I said I didn't think Putin would invade Ukraine in the first place. Would the Chinese form an alliance with Putin, a military alliance, and then end up sending troops to Ukraine to fight for Putin? Well, no, I don't think that's going to happen. Anyway, Janice writes, Churchill, and Pisa is one who feeds a crocodile, hoping will eat him last. Yes, I've heard. You know what? I've heard this before. I don't think Churchill actually did say this, but it's been given to. It's a quote that's been given to him. Sorry, I could be completely wrong. Maybe Churchill did say that, but the idea is absolutely correct. Is the idea that this is how appeasement actually works. Janice writes, you were given the choice between war and dishonor. You chose dishonor and you will have war. Yes, that is what Churchill said in Parliament on, can't remember the date's gone, but anyway, yeah. So yeah, absolutely agree with that. Yeah, so Christopher writes, what a shame. After the first 5 years of the 20th century, Russia-Ukraine deserves 1,000 years of peace. Yes, just consider what's happened, because there's things, okay, first of all, you've got under the Tsarist regime, which some people think so wonderful. You had you had these dreadful pogroms that took place. Thousands upon thousands of people killed in these pogroms. Then you have the First World War. The First World War leads to a civil war, which also engenders mass starvation. There was massive starvation in the Soviet Union following the Civil War. Indeed, the Soviet Union then actually put out requests for assistance, and Litvinov, who was later the foreign minister, said that the people are trying to control the Soviet Union by if they give aid or not. Following this, then you have the deliberate the starvation of people. A Holodomor, 4.5 million dead. Another Kremlin policy aimed above all at Ukraine. I know the neo-Nazis today deny that these things actually took place. Then you have the purges. Then you have the Second World War. And the Second World War, 20% of the population of Belarus died. Something along the lines of 20%, I think, of Ukraine. Population of Ukraine died. You've got the massive removal of people from Crimea, Tatars, or the German population. You had before the war, you had the expulsion of Poles, for example, from and so after from areas of the Soviet Union, you have all of this terror which has gone on and repeatedly goes on, no matter what regime is in the Kremlin, whether it was the Tsar, whether it was the Bolsheviks, or now whether it's Putin. It's the same sort of thing. So Christopher, utterly right. These people deserve 1,000 years of peace after everything that they've gone through, which has been, I might add, not because of nature, which might, nature can cause all sorts of nasty things to happen, in starvation because of the crops won't grow because there's a volcano on the other side of the world. But anything of this nature can cause loss of life, and deserve it. Anyway, Emir writes that he watches Defense Politics Asia military summary. Some new world echo objective updates war. They report so on the bombing of Donetsk from Adivka and Manika region using artillery. Okay. I find that extremely hard to believe. I don't think that Ukraine doesn't have the resources, in my opinion. So anyway, sorry, this comes from Patrick Lancaster. No, okay, right, now I understand. Patrick Lancaster is a paid Kremlin. He cannot operate because you cannot call it a war. In Russia, you'd go to prison. Patrick Lancaster is nothing but a tool of the Kremlin. You may as well you want to get accurate information, then you may as well just watch Russia Adim, because it's the same sort of nonsense. There are no independent journalists on the West on their side that I am aware of. All independent Russian reporters have been shut down. There are no free newspapers now in Russia whatsoever. And Patrick Lancaster makes things up. So if he said, I wouldn't believe him if he said that the sun was shining today, never mind anything else. He just makes stuff up. So if he says that the Donetsk was bombarded, I just don't believe him. It's that simple. He just makes things up. Okay, right. So I've gone on for 45 minutes now. And there was one thing I did want to do actually though, because I put up a video related to the destruction of a town called in Ukraine. I did want to actually go into more detail on this. There's things I have to be prepared on the murders in Bucha, for example, and which I'll try and put up some other day in the future, which I would like to actually go into to more details about. But anyway, I'll do that. So thanks to everybody who watched this today, and so all the best from me. And I tried to eat some Doritos with 3-in-1 coffee. I love that. You know, I like this 3-in-1 coffee as well. Never put sugar in. So I don't even have sugar. But no, not true, because I had somebody around yesterday wanted sugar, and I found some sugar for them. But I really do like that 3-in-1 as well. I think it's really tasty. I don't buy Doritos, but if somebody gives them to me, I'll eat them. Thanks for watching. Part 2 ever. Yes, Christopher, part 2 ever is on Friday. I put it up for Friday, but if you want, I'll put it on premiere tomorrow. So then it'll definitely come up. I must warn you though in advance that part 2 of ever is going to be a big disappointment. So don't say you weren't warned. Part 1 is far more interesting, even though it's all entirely the Diary of Ever Braun was made up. You know, I came across this because I saw the book on Amazon or something. I thought, hey, that's an interesting story, because I sort of realized that it was a forgery. Then I started digging up things. I got information from the court. Sorry, the court didn't send it to me. I found it from the archive. Sorry, okay, get this correct. And then I was able to sort of work from that. So yeah, but Everbro did keep a diary, but we've only got a few pages of it, because it was the rest of it was destroyed. One of the interesting things in the film Downfall is that when she's dictating a letter which is sent to her sister, and that is the letter in the film. You see the letter that she sent. I think that one's quite interesting. But she does say there she wants her stuff destroyed, and they destroyed it, but some things didn't get destroyed. Actually, a diary might yet turn up. I'm not suggesting it absolutely will, but it's possible it could turn up one day in the future. And so anyway, it might be worth writing a diary and saying it was this is the other diary of Ever Braun. Okay, thanks for watching. All the best from me. Bye for now. How do I turn it off? Oh, there's an end stream. I'll do that.